Today we're going to show you the preparation stage, the application stage, and the finishing stage of most epoxy jobs. Let's get to it. Today on PurEpoxy-Hawaii.com we are at Harold K.L. Castle Upper School, and we want to welcome back the Spartans, and we also want to show you how to apply Epoxy Outdoors and all the nuances that go on with that. We've removed their old logo and we're going to replace it with a new one. There are usually three parts to any epoxy job. Part 1 is preparation, part 2 is application, and part 3 is finishing. In part 1, preparation, we're going to be grinding, sweeping, vacuuming, and cleaning. For preparation, you're going to need the following tools: a grinder with a diamond grinding wheel, brooms, a vacuum with a HEPA filter, xylene, rags, plain water, and masking tape. Here we're just gathering all our tools for our preparation of part 1. Here's a grinder. You can see the vacuum with the HEPA filter on the ground. Got some electrical cords, and we've got our broom in the back and our cleaning rags. I'd say for all jobs you'd want to park as close as possible so you don't have to drag all your equipment that far. I mean, we've got to drag a vacuum cleaner and all the other equipment. It's a lot easier if you can park a lot closer. So here we're getting ready to grind off the old Seabury Hall logo. You can see it's all chipped up and worn out. We're going to grind that off with our grinder with the diamond wheel, and we've got our other equipment, the vacuum cleaner with the HEPA filter because we're going to be grinding on concrete. And then we've got the grinder itself and the epoxy equipment for the next phase. Here we're done with the grinding and got all the logo off and all the old epoxy. The grinder was connected to the vacuum cleaner with the HEPA filter, but it still leaves a lot of residue behind that we have to sweep up and vacuum separately. Here we're just doing some fast forward vacuuming action, getting all that debris up, all that dirt, all that old epoxy and all the dust. Everything's got to go. Then he's using some water in the vacuum cleaner to get out any of the lasting stubborn dirt. Bobby's applying xylene to a rag, and he's going to wipe down the entire area, picking up all the remaining dust, cleaning out any grease that may got on there, and drying up all the water Vinny just put down. Because it's windy outside, we're going to have to make sure that the entire area well beyond our working area is clean of dust and dirt and debris. We don't want any of that to get in our work area. Here Bobby's just masking off the area around the circle so that we don't have to get any of the epoxy on the surrounding cement. You don't want to get any epoxy outside of your work area. Part 2 is application. We're going to be using epoxy with pigment for making a primer coat, and then we're going to put on a top coat a few hours later. The tools you're going to need for this job are PPH Fast Cure Epoxy because we're doing it outdoors. We want to get it done quickly. Super white pigment, a 2-quart mixing cup, a stir stick, a small roller, and a tarp with a plastic backing. You don't want to use a regular tarp because it'll just seep right through and get onto the concrete where you don't want it. We set up our mixing station in the shade to keep our product cool. From left to right we've got part A, and then we've got part B, and then we have a mixing cup with a stir stick and our pigment. You can find all of this on PurEpoxy-Hawaii.com. Just go to the store and scroll down and select polyaspartic products. For this project we used PPH Fast Cure in a 3-gallon kit. PPH Fast is a 2-component rapid curing, hybrid polyaspartic coating system designed as a decorative yet durable coating for commercial and industrial flooring. Going back to the store, next product we used was a pigment, and you'll find that under epoxy pigments. We actually used a tint base, so look under tint base, and under the menu we actually used super white for this project. Going back into the store, we also used a mixing cup. You can find that under sundries, and we used a 1 quart mix and measure measuring cup or mixing cup. You'll also need to supply your own stir stick. Right here he's already put in part A into the mixing cup. Now he's adding the pigment. You always want to add the pigment to part A and mix that first before you put in the hardener. This gives you a lot more time, and you'll be mixing it actually twice. So here he's mixing it once, and then we're going to put in part B. Now part A and part B are a 1-to-1 ratio, and putting in the pigment depends on how opaque you want the pigment. For this small area we didn't need a lot of pigment. And this is the second time he's stirring it, and now he's pouring it out and continuing to stir it. And now he's going to spurt it out with a weenie roller. Now because this cement is ground down and it's very porous, that epoxy gets sucked right into those pores. You can see it soaking it up, covering every square inch. As you notice, he's also overlapping as he paints the epoxy on, or rolls the epoxy on, I should say. The masking tape really helps keep all the epoxy where we want it, making cleanup a lot easier. Got to get any little debris out of there, pop any of those bubbles. Primer coat drying time. We let it dry for 2 days before sanding and applying the top coat. We set up a shade tent to keep our area cool, not only for ourselves but for the project. We don't want the second coat to get too hot and crack, and so we've set up the shade tent. Here he's sanding down the primer coat to get it nice and smooth. And here we have our mixing station all set up under our shade, keeping our product cool. He just put in the pigment into part A, and he's going to give that a stir. Next he's going to put in part B, and then he's going to give that a stir. And fast forward. And you want to make sure your roller doesn't have any lint or loose hairs on them. Get that off. And here he goes pouring on the second coat right into the middle, and he's going to spread it out from there. Always overlapping. Just spreading it out all over the circle again. Coating everything twice, making sure you overlap. Here you can see an up-close view of all the little holes that the primer coat didn't get, and the second coat will fill in right now. Fill in all those little holes with the second top coat, or the second coat. There you go, and fast forward. Just spreading it out overlapping, getting all the holes. And now we're just doing a little bit of cleanup. Make sure you wear gloves. We didn't have gloves for this project. At least you have a few rags to keep things clean. You also want to make sure you keep everything on the tarp. Tarp keeps everything off of the cement. Here we've let the second coat dry for about 4 to 5 hours, and now we're just blowing off any debris that had gotten in there while we were gone. Any dust, any remaining dust before we put on the sticker, which we're fitting right here. And that's the new sticker that's going to go on. It's kind of tedious to put down, but it's going to look great when it's done. And here we are, just wiping down the area one last time before we put the sticker down. Make sure it sticks nice. Blowing off any of the remaining dust, dirt, and debris from the area before we sit down and put the logo down. Make sure the area is completely clear of dust, as much as possible when you're doing it outside. Here we're laying down the sticker. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, quite honestly, but if you have patience, you can peel it apart and lay it down nice and flat. And it's a little tedious getting all these little, especially this one has a lot of little parts to it. So in part 3, we're going to be finishing up the project. We're going to be adding the top coat, and then we're going to be cleaning up. Next, we're going to apply the top coat, and of course it's in 2 parts, part A and part B. And again, we've got our mixing cup and our stir stick. And we're going to mix part A and part B. First we're going to put in part A. And then we're going to add part B. We don't need much because this area is very small. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, and you've got to stir it for at least 90 seconds. Doing some last minute checks before we pour it, because this is your last chance. Everything's got to be set up nice, set up correctly before you pour. After pouring out the clear coat, you just roll it out just like before, overlapping as you go, covering every square inch. And here we have it, the finished logo for Seabury Hall, Maui, Hawaii. And if you remember from the beginning of the video, we went from this beat up logo, and now we've got the new improved logo. I think it looks great. And if you'd like us on your next project, please go to PurEpoxy-Hawaii.com, and don't forget to ring the notification bell and hit subscribe. Thank you.